My story. My story started 9 years ago, pretty much today, when I got the usual pain in the hands, pain in the feet, tingling, numbness, excruciating pain. I can't tell you how painful it was. It was just ridiculous, and that's how it starts. And it gradually went up my arms and my legs, and my girlfriend, who was with me through the whole thing, luckily for me, she forced me to hospital, and as soon as I got there, I spoke to the doctors, and they were pretty much sure that I had GBS. They weren't certain, but it was the first thing that they thought of. Thank goodness. Thank you, Dr. Denton. And then we went for a CAT scan. They did a lumbar puncture, which I think was a bit too early. They should have waited for 2 weeks, maybe. I think is what you're supposed to do. So be careful of that. And they took me onto the ward, and I had a good okay sleep overnight. I was in pain, but they medicated me slightly for that, so that was a bit better. But when I woke up in the morning, that was when it really started, and I wanted to get out for a wee, so I wanted to go to the toilet, and tried to swing my legs out of the bed, and they just were slow, and they were painful, and I couldn't move them properly, and I sort of manhandled myself onto the floor, put my feet down, and just couldn't move from there. They just wouldn't move. They wouldn't hold my weight. They were just super painful and sensitive, and it was horrible. And it just got worse over the next sort of 12 hours, 14, 15 hours. I just went from being able to sort of like pull myself around a little bit into a wheelchair, or onto a toilet and stuff like that. I was weak, but I wasn't too bad. I didn't think it was anyway. I didn't know. I had no idea. And then along came the bit where I asked my girlfriend about 8 o'clock in the evening for a glass of water, which she obliged and very kindly gave me. And she poured the water into my mouth, and I choked and started to drown on that half a cup of water. And that was panic stations for everybody. The nurse came, and the doctors, and they fixed me up, and I was fine. But from there, I think we moved into a new level of worry for the medical people, and along came the intensive care doctor, a guy called Jock, big German dude with glasses, lovely man. He he proceeded to tell me all about GBS in great detail and exactly what was going to happen to me in the next sort of couple of days. And what he said was that the effects of the disease were starting towards my respiratory system, diaphragm, which is a muscle, and it was gonna paralyse that muscle and therefore stop me from breathing. And they were going to save me from this by putting me onto a respirator. So it was down to intensive care and onto a respirator. And by this point, I could hardly move my arms, I could hardly move my feet, my hands were completely dead, toes were gone, ankles gone, legs were just hardly responsive, or I could sort of move my hips a tiny amount. I couldn't swallow, so I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink. And it was panic stations, properly scary stuff, really scary, and it is scary. And for all those that are going through it now, these initial stages are pretty scary, because you don't know where it's going to stop. But as long as you're in the hospital, you're in a better place. They will look after you. They'll keep you alive. You have to have faith in them. And it's difficult to do, but you've got to just give them the keys and say, there you go, look after me. So we went down to intensive care. They put me on a respirator and put me into an induced coma, while I just had the tube down my throat rather than in my neck, so just stopped me from. I think you pull it out and stuff when you're awake. But anyway, so they kept me under for about 8 or 9 days, and when they brought me round, they done a tracheostomy, which you can still see the scar, I think, if I'm doing that right. And they put me on that, and there I was. Woke up, didn't know, very confused, very out of it. A lot of drugs, a lot of pain medication, a lot of morphine, I think, and it's super confusing. It's very confused. Don't know where you are. You don't know what's happened to you. I woke up totally disorientated. I couldn't understand what was going on. And of course, if you're on a respirator, you can't speak. So communication was incredibly difficult. You have to learn how to use an ABC board, and I kind of had a bit of facial movement, and I could kind of twist, do that with my eye, wink my eye a little bit, and that's how we communicated. We had the ABC board, and you go down the ABC board, and and you wink at the right number, right letter, and you build a word. Obviously, it's if you're doing that, if you're the person that's like that ABC board, do yourself a favour and don't guess what the word is. Let the person spell it out, because every time you guess and you get it wrong, it's super frustrating. Honestly, I can't tell you how many times, anything like, I've got an itch. Like I used to have an itch on my face, and it'd be like, it just drove me insane. So I couldn't scratch my face. I couldn't move my arms or my hands, or and there was this itch like there on my eye, just above my eye, and I couldn't scratch it. And I'd lie there for, getting the attention of the nurse was one thing. Then getting them to realise you wanted to tell them something, and then getting them to scratch your face was another. This could take an hour. Lunacy. It just drives you absolutely insane. But it kind of kills the time, really, and it's a bit of a game. Anyway, so I was. I woke up in intensive care, and it was difficult. And I couldn't move. I was in a really bad way, really, really bad way, and that's kind of, where the recovery starts, really. You're left with what you're left with, and I was, if you go back to the picture of me at the start, what happened was that I just, apart from being very ill, I'd obviously lost all the weight I had because I didn't move for months on end, and you don't move, that muscle wastes, the tendons get tight, everything's really painful, and you can't move anything, so it's all just tightening, like that. So what my girlfriend did for me, which I think helped him so much, was she kept moving me all the time. I mean, the hospital haven't got time for that, but if you're there, make the movements that their leg would make the movements their arm would make, or their fingers, or just to move those muscles, just to move those tendons, because it's the tendons in the end that, when you're recovering, are the difficult things to sort of stretch back. If you like, you build tendons up in one part of your body, and it can be bad for the other part, like your grip. So it's, anyhow, I'm getting ahead of myself. So you end up with very, very tight muscles, a lot of muscle wastage, and I went from 11 stone, which it was saying 150 odd pounds, 160 pounds, something like that, down to under 70. 37 kilos I was unbelievable. That picture of me haunts me to this day. I was so thin, and if you look at the left of the picture, that's my leg. That's a leg there. It looks like a stick. It's absolutely amazing. And for me, my recovery, that weight loss and that the pain in the muscles and the tightness in all the tendons was a real battle, because in the end, you have to stretch them out, and tendons, once they're tight, are tough, really tough to get back, and it's really important that you need to keep moving the person, and keep stretching their fingers and their hand, or wherever's worst affected, just move that place. It's, you're only helping them, however much pain they think it is. Ignore that, don't look at their face, be a physio. You'll notice that a physio will a special type of person that's quite happy to stare in your eyes while they're inflicting immense pain on you. I'm not saying that I enjoy it, I really ain't. But what I am saying is that it takes a special type of person to do that. So after a few weeks of intensive care, they moved me to a HDU unit, and sleeping and drinking and eating and washing and bathing and all the normal things that you do, you have to hand over to the nurses and to the HCAs, and they will clean your ass after you've had a poo. They will wash your bits. They will talk to you. They will keep you company. They will do all the things that you kind of need, and make friends and be cool with them, and they'll help you even more. I had some great people, and I was really lucky with some of the amazing people that I had to look after me, and I thank them from the bottom of my heart, all of them, for keeping me alive and putting up with me for that time. But you could say it's their job, but yeah, some people are better at it than others, like all jobs. Yeah, so in the end, I I had a few problems. It attacked my heart. I had a terrible heart rate. I had to reset my heart a few times, quite a few times. That was quite scary moments. But I don't forget. I mean, I was in the top sort of 96, 95% of people that get it, how badly they get it. Not, I'm not saying that like it's a badge of honour or a medal or anything. I'm not. It's how it was. I was right up there. I nearly died, very very nearly. And I wanted to make this video to show people that it doesn't have to end there. It doesn't have to be the end. You can recover. Whatever recovery you get it's not up to you particularly. It's up to GBS and how badly affected you are. But it can be done. I was lucky in some respects, really lucky. And as soon as they got to the point where I started to breathe on my own, which took 80 odd days, and I found it really difficult to eat, so I just couldn't put any weight on. But the food you eat at that point, is so important because you're rebuilding your an entire system of your body. However badly it's damaged, you've got to rebuild it, and that takes food, and that takes good food. Not pizza and chips. It takes greens and veg and fish and all the stuff that you should eat really anyway. But also you have a custard tart, have a donut, have 5, whatever, anything, just get it in. But try and balance your diet, try and give yourself some help with that. A lot of green veg is what you need really, and a lot of fish. But still, I was really lucky. My girlfriend took time off work. She came in twice a day. She'd feed me. So obviously I couldn't lift her. It was nearly 2 years before I could feed myself. So I had to have people feed me for such a long time. And my girlfriend came in and she made the food. She researched it. She looked into what was good for me, what I should be eating, and how to rebuild all these nerves, and what things what were these nerves made of, so she could find out what foods had that stuff in it. And I've got a list of that stuff which I'm happy to share with everybody. And it's mainly green veg, broccoli, spinach, beans, high protein, all that stuff. So, and cream cakes, because you don't like to have cream cake, and a fry up in the morning for breakfast. I mean, yeah, awesome. But putting weight on was the main thing, and the recovery is all about the aftercare and the physio and all that stuff. So you need that food to give you the energy to do the work that you're going to be expected to do, and that you're going to need to do if you want to get back on your feet, or get back as much movement as possible. And that determination is what's going to serve you well, and it served me well. When the doctors put me into a rehab hospital, especially for people with neurological problems, and there was a lot more physio, a lot more focused on occupational therapy and physiotherapy. And I went from having a 2-hour session once every sort of like 6 days to a 2-hour session in the morning, half an hour in the afternoon. That was in the end, but it started off with an hour a day, and then maybe like a Wednesday off or whatever, because I needed a day off. I can't do 5 days a week. It was too much. So we had an hour a day, and it started off with ridiculously like stupid stuff, like literally, can you pelvic floors, things like that. They were doing stuff like that with me, and can you sit up how far can you sit up? How far can you move this leg? And in the end we started to work on the leg muscles and much more understanding. It was can you sit on the bed without having to to lie back? Because when they put me in a chair in intensive care, they decided to put me in a chair, and I remember they put me in a chair. It was about 8 weeks in. They put me in a chair, and I sat in that chair sweating like I was running a marathon for 15 minutes, maybe 20, and then they put me back in the bed, and I slept for 3 days, absolutely exhausted, couldn't I can't tell you how much effort that 15 minutes sitting in a chair was. But I did it. And then after 3 days, they put me back in the chair and I did 16 minutes and I only slept for 2 days and so on and so forth. And, you know, those tiny, tiny, tiny improvements are so important in GBS. You know, every little barrier is a massive achievement. Set yourself goals. I had a goal once. I remember having a meeting with the doctors and they said to me, you know, what are your goals for the next 3 weeks, Mr. Ollie? And I was, well, I want to pull the covers off myself when I'm too hot in the night and I want to be able to roll over on my side. Those were my big, big ambitions for my life at that point. And I did it, I achieved them. Yeah, come on. And yeah, it's just like that, GBS. It is, you just need to set yourself tiny goals and you know, totally celebrate those goals. You know, have Nando's for dinner that day if you've done something like that. But you know, that's where the recovery happens, in those tiny moments as you achieve little things. And in the end, I went from sitting to sit to stand, and with help with the physio assisting me, and I could stand up. And I stood up for the first time after probably 7 months. I stood up and I stood there for 4 seconds on my own, 5 seconds on my own, just enough so that the physio the physio thought that I'd controlled it and done it on my own. And I sat down, you know. And by the end of 3 weeks after that, I was standing up on my own for 3 minutes, and you know. And then it was taking steps on a walker, and then it was, you know, I had to have AFOs, but once we got those sorted, then it was walking around the ward. And in the end, you know, they sent me home, and I walked out of that hospital. I walked out of there, and everyone, I'm not saying everybody can, because you know, it's not always possible with GBS, but I did, and I had it as bad as you can have it. So I walked 100 feet. That's how far I walked. I walked from the front desk to the car, to my girlfriend's car. So I'm not saying I run a marathon. And then after that, it took another 6, 7, 8 months before I could really walk, like, to the shops and back. And I had to wear AFOs on both my legs to keep my ankles straight, and I had to have someone with me. But fine, you know, I got there in the end. And all through this time, I still couldn't move my arms much. I couldn't raise them over my head. My fingers were hardly moving. I think I had a little flicker in a couple of fingers. And, you know, but I wanted to walk. I think that was probably the main thing, the walking. And I managed it. But my legs weren't as badly affected as my hands were. Yeah, and that can be the case with GBS. It could be the opposite of that. It could be so many different connotations. But yeah, so there we go. That's kind of, you know, there's a lot more detail to it than that. Obviously, there's loads of things that happen. There's a million stories within that story. But those were all, you know, just little bumps in the road. And you know, my main message to people is, however bad it looks, it will get better. However desperately bad you feel, you can get better. GBS isn't a life sentence if you don't want it to be. You know, it is a little bit for me, because I didn't recover 100%. I got probably 85%, something like that, recovery. But again, like I say, and I'm still, you know, mine was particularly bad, and I had the AMN. So you know, it's more difficult. GBS is a killer for everybody. I'm not trying to, like I said before, I'm not trying to win a medal. But you know, so my list of things that are still broken after GBS are mainly my hands, which, you know, how well you can see them. But yeah, I've got the muscles are missing in there and in there, there and there and there and there and there and there and across the palms and there, and they're clawed a little bit, and I can't. Very difficult to spread my fingers, and I can't individually move fingers. You know, I've got a grip. I can grip things, and that's about it. And I gotta let them go. Grip, let go. That's kind of, you know, pointing is done around corners. So if I'm pointing at the camera, I have to be around a bit like that. which is kind of always a bit interesting if people ask me where things are, and I go, they're over there, oh, they're over there. But yeah, that's fine. But I made it back to work. You know what I mean? That's the main thing. And I may not be able to work all year round now. I may not be able to work in the winter because the cold seriously affects, you know, the pain levels, and it seriously affects my ability to move my hands and my fingers. They just get cramped up and then they get stuck. So that's a problem. On my left leg, I still have to wear the AFO. My right I worked really hard with that and with my left, but my right got better. My left just didn't. The muscle in the front of the shin is missing, so I can't lift my foot. You know, I can't control my ankle really. So I have to wear an AFO on that, or I just trip over all the time. It's a bit of a pain, but I know, whatever. And I've got pain in my hands and my feet and my face. I don't know if you've probably noticed if you've watched the video that my face is all a bit tight. I used to have a lovely smile, such a lovely smile, but now I haven't. Now I've got a funny smile, and I get a little cramp in my jaw around there, and a lot of like numbness here. All this is numb. I can't feel. I could probably take a good punch in the mouth now, and my lips are all a bit tight, and I can't really, you know, make the same movements with my mouth, and I can't speak loudly. I find speaking loudly for a long time, like doing this, it tires me out. It tires my voice out. My voice starts to crack and go. And yeah. So, but I'm here. I'm alive. I'm walking around. I'm moving around. I'm a bit of function. I'm back functioning in society. I work. I do all right. I get through it. And you know, I just wanted to share my story a little bit with people. Plus, it gave me the impetus to take up baking, kneading bread and stuff. Good for your hands. Anyway, well, I'm going to make some more videos about what happened, more sort of detail about the intensive care period, and maybe some more detail about the physio that I've received. But if anyone's got any questions, of course, you know, let me know, whatever, in the comments thingy, and I'd be happy to help. All right.